as it shall be done. Let it be done. Amen. I don't say amen anymore. Take it away, Glenn.
Okay, well, we're live on YouTube. I just want to make sure that, yep, that looks pretty good. Okay, so this is my appeal brief. It's mostly going to be done. There's a lot of requirements that they throw in there, and so I'm still going through all that stuff. But I think I pretty well got it all. You know, they have this corporate disclosure statement. So the appellant fails to be a corporate slave of any kind, including the Pope's slave property, minor estate, 31 CFR 363.6 fiction, called a U.S. citizen, and the appellant has lots of first-hand knowledge of how the Pope's private bar guild scum intend to presume the appellant's dead and lost at sea, in spite of the fact that the appellant says he's living in every document filed everywhere, including document 113, affidavit of life, filed on May 30th, 2025 in this case. Certificate of interested persons. There's probably going to be some more people added to this. So, but that's the next part that they want. The only things, okay, a person's a thing, that might be interested in this case are as follows. And these are all the respondents, actually, the people that have to, the liars that are responding. Although I'm sending it to the weaponization working group in the U.S. Department of Justice. And opposition to oral argument. Appellant is not learned counsel, although appellant has attempted to become acquainted with the relevant law, and as much as appellant is not one of the Pope's private bar guild liars, it would be patently unfair to pit appellant against the Pope's private bar guild liars in oral argument. Therefore, in the interest of fundamental fairness, the appellant moves the court to make all rulings based on the pleadings before the court. Should the court determine oral argument in the instant matter will aid the resolution of this matter in order to avoid surprise, appellant moves the court to direct the Pope's private bar guild liars, to give prior notice of all law and case law it intends to bring before in the court in the oral argument. And then it's required to have a table of contents and a table of authorities, and so this is the table of authorities, and so we'll just kind of breeze through this. And then the jurisdictional case statement. This action in the lower court was initiated because of a federal question, your code of law for the District of Columbia, Title 28, USC 1331, federal question, because taxation of land originated with the Act of Congress under Chapter 45, approved August 5th, 1861 at 12 Stat 292, that has not been repealed or modified, that provided for tax assessors and collectors at Section 9, 12 Stat 296. They're required to execute a bond at Section 10 at 12 Stat 296. They have an oath of office at Section 11 at 12 Stat 297. Secretary of the Treasury to provide regulations at Section 12 at 12 Stat 297. A direct tax on lands and lots of ground at Section 13 at 12 Stat 297. A Board of Assessors, Section 25 at 12 Stat 300. Tax liens at Section 33 at 12 Stat 303. And every collector shall exercise or be guilty of any extortion or oppression under color of this act shall be liable at Section 43 at 12 Stat 307. Penalty for taking false oath, perjury of oath at Section 47 at 12 Stat 308. And there shall be allowed in full compensation of their services a commission at 12 Stat Section 48 at 12 Stat 308. And then under diversity of citizenship, your code of law for the District of Columbia, Title 28, USC 1332, diversity of citizenship, because all appellees under the Pope's 14th Amendment U.S. citizens are the Pope's 14th Amendment U.S. citizens as required by Texas codes under the Commerce Clause. Matter of fact, I think I'll just modify this, civil codes. Under the Commerce Clause, and the appellant fails to be the Pope's 14th Amendment U.S. citizen slave property as described herein, and Congress actually, I think I'll do this. Oh, that's why I did that. Okay, so we'll just undo that. Anyways, this is National Mutual Insurance Company versus Tidewater District Tidewater Transfer Company. They, under their rules, I have to have all of the court citations underlined. So, anyways, we hold that the District of Columbia is not a state within Article 3 of the Constitution. In other words, Congress has exclusive legislative jurisdiction over citizens of Washington District of Columbia, and through their plenary power nationally, covers those citizens, even one of the several states, as though the district expands for the purpose of regulating its citizens wherever they go throughout the states of the Union. And Congress has exclusive legislative jurisdiction. Maybe I'll do this. Yeah. Of the Pope's 14th Amendment, U.S. citizen property under the Commerce Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. Unalienable rights, civil rights under your Code of Law for the District of Columbia, Title 28, Section 1343, because appellees are stealing the appellant's land, an appellant has an unlimited right to own land, natural right to own land. Forfeiture under your Code of Law for the District of Columbia, Title 28, U.S.C. 1355, forfeiture because appellees are stealing the appellant's land, and mandamus under your Code of Law for the District of Columbia, Title 28, U.S.C. 1361. To order Chad Yarborough or his successor to do his duty to arrest the appellees for their felonies, and Leah Simonton or her successor to do her duty to prosecute the felonies since they've refused to do anything about it, because the appellees named herein are engaged in multiple felonies, evidenced by the 78 criminal complaints filed into the Texas 97th District Kangaroo so-called court, and also filed into the lower court, which the Pope's clergy unfiled. We'll see why they're called Pope's clergy here pretty soon. The Pope's clergy in the lower court entered the final judgment on the 21st of February, 2025. The notice of appeal was filed on the 3rd of March, 2025, within the 60-day time requirement. Court of Appeals is the proper venue to get a void judgment vacated. Minor estate is a fiction of law which originated with the Pope and canon law, and is a legislative usurpation of the bench, which is a bill of attainder and unconstitutional. Oh, the issues presented for review. These are different categories that they require you to use in your appeal brief. The Pope's owned and operated 1871 Municipal Corporation, 16 Stat 419, the National Bar Foundation, and the Pope's Private Bar Guild, State Bar of Texas are all unconstitutional. The facts. On 27 September 2021, the appellant converted silver to land and stated on the bill of exchange that the appellant failed to be a Sestike trust. The Pope's owned and operated appellees and the Pope's Private Bar Guild members sent threat letters using the Roman canon law, calling the appellant their slave and threatening to engage in the theft of the appellant's land. On or about 13 June 2022, the appellant served a notice and demand on Catherine Phillips by registered mail, Jennifer Pinoglio by registered mail, Clay V. Riddle by registered mail, oh, shoot. Okay.
What? Well,
this is here twice.
Oh, okay. And I didn't have my screen big when you started. You didn't say the lawyer was a liar, did you? You wrote lawyer.
No, right? Liar.
I have a joke about a liar at the end of all this, so don't let me forget, okay? It's really good.
Okay. Well, I've got a joke about a liar, too. Although it's an engineer joke, too. It's hard to say what you want to call it. But anyways, well, here's your joke. A true copy together with proof of service is attached here too, all of which is incorporated herein by reference in its entirety. saying the appellant failed to be their Roman canon law sestque trust, but was a living man, and explaining the felonies they were engaged in with a copy of their threat letter, enslaving the appellant under their Roman canon law. The Pope's owned and operated private bar guild and the Pope's clergy in the 97th District Court issued a fake judgment to steal the appellant's land. The Pope owned and operated private bar guild and conspiracy with the appellees were selling the appellant's land in a tax sale without payment of their extortion. In August of 2024, the appellant filed a lawsuit in the lower court. On 7 September 2024, the appellant took this matter to a common law jury, as evidenced by the finding of facts and conclusions, a true copy of which is attached into the appendix, all of which is incorporated herein by reference in its entirety. So this is where I'm going to go ROA, and then I'm going to have page numbers there. So ROA means record on appeal. All of which is incorporated herein by reference in its entirety. Therefore, this matter is res judicata. The Pope's lower court clergy conspired with the appellees to assault the appellant with their canon law minor estate to steal the land. The appellant filed oh, the fireworks is going off. Okay, the Pope's lower court clergy conspired with the appellees to assault the appellant with their canon law minor estate, 31 CFR 363.6, to steal the land. The appellant filed document 112, mandatory judicial notice of 12 presumptions, document 113, affidavit of life on May 13, 2025, and document 114, notice of void judgment on 18 June 2025, certified copies of each of which are attached to the appendix, all of which are incorporated herein by reference in its entirety. So what I'd probably do is ROA and then page numbers. ROA, page numbers. ROA, page numbers. The bar, the 1871, so this is an argument summary. The bar, the 1871 Municipal Corporation at 16 Stat 419, and the minor estate, 31 CFR 363.6, are all unconstitutional because they all come from the Pope. And Article 1 in amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The minor estate, 31 CFR 363.6, and the ruling of the lower court's clergy is a bill of pains and penalties and unconstitutional. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. And so the argument. All officers of the court have an oath to the appellant as evidence herein by the statement of original status as found in the corporate denial affidavit that is recorded with the Pinal County Recorder at P number 032373 and the pedigree charts that are attached here too. And so then ROA page numbers. That is now the unrebutted truth of public policy, a true copy of which is attached here too in the appendix. Matter of fact, I might just put the ROA. Maybe I'll just put it there. Anyways, Will Livingston ratified this Constitution for the United States of America on behalf of New Jersey, 1787, is the appellant's fourth great uncle, which means the appellant's posterity is found in the preamble. We the people. So this is the preamble to the Constitution. And the appellant is entitled to right of blood, and right of blood cannot be destroyed by any civil law because all the laws of Congress and all the laws of Texas are civil laws. And this is the maxim right here. And this court is operating under power which is derived from the appellant as posterity, and the maxim says the power which is derived cannot be greater than that from which it is derived. Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856 edition. Therefore, it's impossible for the appellant to give any of the Pope's appellees or their private bar guild handlers or this court any authority over the appellant, and the Legislative Supreme Court of the United States agreed and said it's impossible to confer a sovereignty which will extend over the appellant. And that's McCullough versus Maryland. The appellant is exempt from the Pope's appellees and the Pope's private bar guild, not because of any formal conception or obsolete theory, but on the logical and practical ground that there can be no legal right as against the authority that makes the law on which the right depends. And that's Kalanicoa versus Polyblank, 1907, U.S. Supreme Court. And the appellant requires this court to regulate their property under Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or the property belonging to the United States, which is the supreme law of the land. Anything in the constitutional laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding, Article 6, Clause 2. And we, the people, failed to be U.S. citizens because the Pope's 14th Amendment U.S. citizen failed to exist when the Constitution was written. And that's Manchester versus Boston, 1819. The Pope's 14th Amendment U.S. citizen is a fiction of law. Ex parte Frank Knowles and 102 Stat 1344. The Pope's 14th Amendment U.S. citizen was created by the Pope's canon law by what is now the Pope's owned and operated Congress. And the 14th Amendment referred to slavery. Consequently, the only persons embraced by its provisions for which Congress was authorized to legislate the matter of those then in slavery. And that's Bowling versus Commonwealth, 1867. The term resident and citizen in the United States is distinguished from a citizen of one of several states in that the former is a special class of citizen created by Congress. And that's U.S. versus Anthony. And I think I'll just add one in here. I'm just trying to think of where it is.
Are you going to ask for an accelerated hearing?
Sorry?
Are you going to ask for an accelerated hearing date?
No. And this is current federal codes. All citizens of the United States shall have the same right in every territory, state, and territory as enjoyed by white citizens thereof to inherit, purchase, lease, sell, hold, convey real and personal property. Fictions of law were invented by the Roman praetors under canon Roman law for the Pope's ecclesiastical city-states, which is now the Vatican, under the pretense of doing equity. And this is from Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856 edition. And fictions of law owe their origins to the legislative usurpations of the bench. Legislative usurpations of the bench. Maybe I'll just underline that. Which means the fake judge is a legislator when dealing with fictions of law, which means the fake judge's legislative act is a bill of attainder, because a bill of attainder is a legislative act. Maybe I'll just undo that. A bill of attainder is a legislative act that applied to named individuals to inflict punishment without a judicial trial. That's taken from these definitions right here. Actually, this is Supreme Court, U.S. versus Lovett. Bill of Attainder, Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition, a bill of pains and penalties, which was brought up in the lower court in the demand for relief in documents 102, 100, 102, 103, and 104. So then we're going to do ROA space and numbers. ROA space and numbers. Maybe I'll just do this. True
Hey, we
copy.
got more about this. Go ahead, Glenn. Sorry.
So what was that rude interruption all about? True copies of which are in the appendix, because judges only hold office during good behavior. Judges both of the Supreme and Inferior Court shall hold their offices during good behavior. That's Article 3, Section 1. And judges in bad behavior engage in fraud upon the court. That's Bullock versus United States. Before the judges in the lower court, therefore the judges in the lower court are the Pope's clergy, and engaged in fraud upon the court in conspiracy with the Pope's private bar guild members, working for the Pope's County of Montague Corporation, when they issued a bill of pains and penalties against the appellant named individual because they intended to be accomplices to the theft of the appellant's land by using the Pope's owned and operated fiction of law minor estate, sestike usufruct, 31 CFR 363.6. The Pope's County of Montague Corporation rendered the property by force the appellant's land, even though the Texas tax code originated after the Civil War, originating after the Civil War, with an act defining what money and property is subject to taxation or exemption, and the mode of listing the same on August 21st, 1876. And this is a quote out of it, which is for corporate-owned property. And in Section 4, the term person, whenever used in this act or any other act regulating the assessment or collection of taxes, shall be construed to include firm, company, or corporation, and requires cash or its equivalent for their taxes, which means Federal Reserve notes. Market value means the price of property, which would transfer for cash or its equivalent. As explained in the Catherine Phillips Notice and Demand that was served on the appellees, that shows taxable land, ROA, that was served on the appellees, that shows taxable land as used for the production of income. Rendition generally is used for the production of income. And rendition originated with Section 7 of the Act of the Legislature of 1876. All property shall be listed and rendered in the manner following, which is corporate property, which means the appellant land fails to qualify for rendition, as explained in the Notice and Demand that was served on appellees, because income is corporate profits. And this is all income. The bold and underlining is the emphasis is in the original. So, anyways, you can read that. The Pope's Bar is an acronym, stands for British Accredited Regency. Regency is the office or jurisdiction of a region or body of regents, a government or authority by regents. Because the Pope's private bar guild members are appointed by Inns of Court. Inns of Court are separate private unincorporated associations in the nature of collegiate houses located in London, which is located in the Pope's dependent city-state, located in the city of London, originally called Kingdoms of England and Ireland, now known as United Kingdom and the Crown, since the concessions of England to the Pope, 1213. And this is taken from the concessions of England to the Pope, because King John gave the kingdoms of England and Ireland to the Pope and agreed to rent them back for 1,000 marks sterling per year. And this is Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, under the definition of Pope, which means all private bar guild members are foreign agents of the Pope, which is why they're here under the Pope's Civil Laws of Congress, foundation of the Federal Bar Association, under the Code of Law for the District of Columbia, now known as Title 35, USC, Section 70501 through 70512, claiming immunity under the International Organization Immunity Act of 1945. Both judges in the lower court are the Pope's clergy. Private bar guild members is required by the Pope's Civil Laws of Congress, called Code of Law for the District of Columbia, now known as Title 28 U.S. Code, Section 631. The Pope's dependent city-state in the city of London, called the Crown, created the Sestake V Act of 1666, and this is Tomlin's Law Dictionary 1835 edition, volume 2, under the definition of mort main. Yet still it was found difficult to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity. For when they were driven out of all their former holes, they devised a new method of conveyance by which the lands were granted not to themselves directly, but to nominal fiefs, to the use of the religious houses, thus distinguishing between the possession and the use. Okay, use being usufruct, and receiving the actual profits, while the season of the land remained in the nominal fief, who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy, that's the Pope, to be bound in conscience to account to a Sestake use for the rents and emoluments of the estate, and that's taxes. And it is to these inventions that our practitioners are indebted for the introduction of uses and trusts, the foundation of modern conveyancing. And, quote, who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy, which is the Pope, to be bound in conscience to account to a Sestake use for the rents and emoluments of the estate, which is under the direction of the Pope's clergy in this case. So that's where the Pope's clergy, right? The Pope, under the direction of the clergy, that's the Pope. Which is what the Pope's County of Montag land thieves and the Pope's private bar guild handlers did to the appellant, and which is what precipitated the War of Independence, as evidenced by the causes and necessities for taking up arms issued by the Continental Congress in 1775. Statutes have been passed extending courts of admiralty and vice-admiralty far beyond their ancient limits for depriving us of the accustomed and inestimable privilege of trial by jury in cases affecting both life and property, to supersede the course of common law, instead thereof to publish and order the use and exercise of the law martial, and for altering fundamentally the form of government established by charter. I need to and the organic law of the Declaration of Independence shows it was listed as reasons for the Declaration of Independence from the Pope's tyrant, the Crown of England. Because when they say that he's combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, is talking about the Pope's canon, Roman canon, ecclesiastical law, which is also why thousands of people were fleeing Europe at that time, because of the Pope's tyranny there. And this is tyranny as defined by John Locke, Two Treatises of Government. You can read that at some time if you wish. With the Spanish Inquisition. Inquisition, everybody knows there was a Spanish Inquisition. And Inquisition is a way of proceeding in ecclesiastical court. And that's Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, volume 1. And other inquisitions and oppressions. And this is Blackstone's Commentaries, book 4, page 310. The use of information has a long history. For example, in the reign of Henry VII, a very oppressive use was made of them for something more than a century, so as to continually harass and shamefully enrich the Pope's crown. Yeah, I like that better. Courts ecclesiastical. Spiritual courts are those courts which are held by the king's authority as supreme governor of the church for matters which chiefly concern religion. And that's institutes, that's Cork in the 1500s. And the laws and constitutions whereby the Church of England is governed are diverse immemorial customs, our own provincial constitutions, and the canons made in convocations, especially those in the year 1603. Much oppression having been exercised through the channel of these courts on persons charged with trifling offenses within their spiritual jurisdiction. Well, gee, isn't that what's going on today? Which is why the appellant's ancestors made the very first article and amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. After the War of Independence, the Pope's canon Roman ecclesiastical Sestake use was brought into America first with the Pope's 1871 Municipal Corporation at 16 Stat 419. Civil law, Roman civil law, convertible phrases meaning the same system of jurisprudence, that rule of action which every particular nation, commonwealth, or city established peculiarly for itself, more properly called municipal law. And then with the Code of Law for the District of Columbia in 1901, the legal estate to be the Sestake use at 31 Stat 1432. The Pope's minor estate Sestake usufruct is now codified at 31 CFR 363.6 and are unconstitutional because municipal law was the laws of the municipia, or dependent papal ecclesiastical city-states. Just right here, the appellation of municipal was originally confined to the laws of the municipia, or the dependent states. Roman or papal states stretch across the central part of the Italian peninsula in oblique direction from the Adriatic to the Mediterranean, between Tuscany, Modena, and Lombardy on the northwest, and Naples on the southeast. Area is 17,822 square miles. Population, 1833, was 2,742,000. Capital is Rome. Population, 153,000. Government and elective monarchy, the Pope for the time being the absolute sovereign, with the consulting assembly of cardinals. And that's, need to add this.
Could I just jump in there a second, Glenn? Is that all right?
Well, whatever, go ahead. What up? What's up?
Thank you, yes. So I'd just like to welcome a couple of people to the chat. Good Bill, Zoe, Gowie, Dale. Yeah, thank you ever so much. Could I also just ask you, Glenn, could you, for those that have just joined, could you just give a summary of what the document is designed to achieve?
This is my appeal brief that's going to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit.
Thank you very much. That was very good. Wow.
Well, that's what happens when you come late to the game. You miss out on that kind of stuff. You need to come early.
Yes, that's what we need to do.
I'm looking at the YouTube chat right now. And it doesn't look like there's anything of interest there. I mean, lots of comments, but yeah, this is my appeal brief. And what I'm going to do is I'll put the Word file in the Telegram on my Telegram page, and so you can look at the court citations and stuff. But this is my appeal brief. Now, there's going to be a few minor changes made because I'm doing the appendix too. I want to try and get it out here by this Friday, which is a week from today. I want to try and get it in the mail. I have to have it served by the 14th, which is 10 days. So I'm kind of under the gun. Okay, so let's keep moving. Rome is the capital of the Pope's territories and of Italy, and anciently the Milrus of the Roman Empire. And Roman law is also called canon law. The civil or Roman and canon law, though they're not perhaps deemed proper parts of our written law, have undoubtedly had the greatest influence in Scotland. The power exercised by our sovereigns and judges have been justified upon no other ground than that they were conformable to the civil and canon laws. Civil or canon laws. So Roman and canon law, it's all canon law. The Pope's ecclesiastical city-states were annexed to the Kingdom of Italy in 1870, and this is Wikipedia. The papal states and the city of Rome were annexed to the kingdom in 1870, completing the unification of Italy, and are now called Vatican City and the Holy See, and it continues to this day. This is the Lateran Pact, Article 4, 1929. The sovereignty and exclusive jurisdiction over Vatican City, which Italy recognizes as appertaining to the Holy See, forbid any intervention therein on the part of the Italian government, or that any authority other than that of the Holy See shall be there acknowledged. And is unconstitutional. Remember that Ratzinger, that Pope that went and resigned suddenly? What I heard, and I don't know, this is something that Kevin Annett says, is that they had filed a criminal complaint, actually convicted him for a child rape and murder and some other stuff, and they sent their evidence to the Spanish authorities, and Spain told the Pope that if he came to Spain that he would probably get arrested. And so he resigned and spent the rest of his life in the Vatican. Congress and is unconstitutional because of Article 1 and Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. And the Pope's necromancy, sestike usufruct, which is now called the minor estate, 31 CFR 363.6, is an entity. Because an entity includes the estate of a living person, such as an incompetent or a minor, and a minor can be anyone over the age of 18 years who's failed to take control of the securities in the Treasury Direct account. The Pope's sestike use minor estate, 31 CFR 363.6, is a fiction of law which was invented by the Roman praetors under the pretense of doing equity and owe their origin to the legislative usurpations of the bench. And the Pope's fictions of law are necromancy and satanic. And this is Deuteronomy 18:10-12, King James Version. Puts you under the Commerce Clause, under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, violating Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Boy, the fireworks is going off big time right now.
Yeah, is it longer than normal?
No, it started, about an hour ago. So it's the rally. It's the big, multiple, it's going off big time right now. To use fraud and deception to assault people with a quasi-contract, which is a fake contract. Assumpsit in its origin an action of tort. Assumpsit was soon transformed into an action of contract, becoming afterwards a remedy where there was neither tort nor contract, based at first only upon an express promise. It was afterwards supported upon an implied promise and even upon a fictitious promise. Introduced as a special manifestation of the action on the case, it soon acquired the dignity of a distinct form of action which superseded debt, became a current with account and with case upon a bailment, a warranty, and bills of exchange, and competed with equity in the case of essentially equitable quasi-contracts. And this is Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition. Both in Roman and English law, there are certain obligations which were not in truth contractual, but which the law treats as if they were. They are contractual in law, but not in fact, being the subject matter of the fictitious expansion of the sphere of contract to cover obligations which do not reality fall within it. Quasi-contracts, which requires the Pope's fiction of law, minor estate, constructive quasi-contracts are based solely upon the legal fiction or fiction of law. Because under the Commerce Clause, the boundaries of the Pope's District of Columbia and through their plenary power nationally covers those citizens, even when in one of the several states, as though the district expands for the purpose of regulating its citizens wherever they go throughout the states of the Union. And that's National Mutual Insurance Company versus Tidewater Transfer Company, U.S. Supreme Court, 1948. Which is why the Kavanaugh hearings, when he was being interviewed for a Supreme Court appointment, they asked him, can we go after a U.S. citizen in Afghanistan? And he said, yes, you can. And because plenary power is a dictatorship under the Pope's canon law. And plenary jurisdiction accords full and absolute power of the subject matter and parties in the case. Plenary is full, complete in the courts of admiralty and in English ecclesiastical courts. Causes or suits in respect to different courses proceedings are each termed plenary or summary. Plenary is a plenary power. Plenary authority is a complete and absolute power to take action in a particular issue with no limitations. It's derived from the Latin term plenus. Plenary power, complete power of a particular area with no limitations. The judges in the lower courts are tyrants operating as bought and paid for administrative clerks masquerading as judges. The Pope's clergy, under the Pope's canon law of trusts and bad behavior and fraud upon the court, which are non-judicial proceedings, because whenever a statute's involved, the Pope's fake judge is actually a clerk masquerading as a judge, as the Pope's clergy. When acting to enforce a statute and subsequent amendments to the present day, the judge of municipal court is acting as an administrative officer, not in a judicial capacity. Courts administrating or enforcing statutes do not act judicially, but merely act ministerially, but merely act as an extension, as an agent for the involved agency, but only in a ministerial and not a discretionary capacity. It's the accepted rule, not only in the state courts, but of the federal courts as well, that when a judge is enforcing administrative law, they're described as mere extensions of the administrative agency for superior reviewing purposes, as a ministerial clerk for an agency. Judges who become involved in enforcement of mere statutes, civil or criminal in nature, and otherwise act as mere clerks of the involved agency, which means they were legislators engaging in legislative acts against the appellant, a named individual, which is a bill of attainder and a bill of pains and penalties, which are prohibited under Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. And also Article 1, an amendment. Which says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, because it is from the Pope's Roman law, also known as canon law, and because they've imposed martial law rule, which is why we took up arms in 1775, and more recently with the bankruptcy emergency. It's an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933, 48 Stat 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent. Joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolve the sovereign authority of the United States in the official capacities of all United States governmental offices, officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. Since March 9, 1933, notice the date, March 9, 1933, the United States has been in a state of declared national emergency. Under the powers delegated by these statutes, the President may seize property, organize and control the means of production, seize commodities, assign military forces abroad, institute martial law, seize and control all transportation and communication, regulate the operation of private enterprise, restrict travel, and a plethora of particular ways control the lives of all American citizens. A majority of the people of the United States have lived all their lives under emergency rule. For 40 years, freedoms and governmental procedures guaranteed by the Constitution have in varying degrees been abridged by laws brought into force of states of national emergency. And that's taken from U.S. Senate Report number 93-549, dated November 19, 1973. Do you think it's changed? Absolutely not. Martial law rule is a law of emergency and necessity, and this is Ex parte Milligan. The Pope's private bar guild members on the bench will tell you I can do anything I want, and because normally equity follows common law, which is taken from the Holy Bible, but under martial law rule there is no common law, which is also talked about in the Cause and Necessities for Taking Up Arms, 1775. Every system of law known to civilized society generated from or has as its component one of these three well-known systems of ethics: pagan, Stoic, or Christian. The common law draws its subsistence from the latter. Its roots go deep into that system. The Christian concept of right and wrong and justice motivates every rule of equity. It is the guide by which we dissolve domestic frictions and the rule by which all legal controversies are settled. And that's Strauss versus Strauss, 1941. That's obviously a divorce case, which makes it satanic. And the Pope's private bar guild Satanists are using the Pope's canon law of capitis numinutio under the Commerce Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, to assault people with their penal action for breach of quasi-contract, which is a fake contract. A penal action is an action on a penal statute, an action for recovery of penalty given by statute, where an action is founded entirely upon a statute and the only object is to recover a penalty or forfeiture. Such action is a penal action. The words penal and penalty in their strict primary sense denote a punishment, whether corporal or pecuniary. Remember that word, pecuniary. Imposed and enforced by the state for a crime or offense against its laws. The noun penalty is defined forfeiture or to be forfeited for non-compliance with an agreement. Gee, that sounds like a quasi-contract. The words forfeit and penalty are substantially synonymous, which is all tied to the Pope's canon law and their quasi-contract pecuniary cause. Pecuniary. Such as arise from withholding of ecclesiastical dues or the doing or neglecting some act relating to the church, whereby some damage accrues to the plaintiff, towards obtaining satisfaction for which he's permitted to institute a suit in a spiritual court. Such per action are the subtraction or withholding of the tithes from the person or vicar, the non-payment of ecclesiastical dues to the clergy. They want their fucking extortion, the fucking whores. To populate the Pope's prisons by selling people into slavery. He, the prisoner, has as a consequence of his crime not only forfeited his liberty, but all his personal rights, except those which the law and its humanity affords him. He is for the time being a slave of the state. And Trump even paid off the Pope when he commuted Roger Stone's penance, or sentence, or penance, it's both the same, which was changed into a sum of money to be applied for pious uses, which is usufrux. Penitentiary is a penitent, has meant a penitent, ordainer of penitence, a place for penitence. That's what a penitentiary is. Penance is the punishment imposed for a crime by the ecclesiastical laws, an acknowledgement of the offense. Penance may be changed into a sum of money to be applied to pious uses called commuting. And that's taken from Book 3 and Book 4 of Coke's Institutes and the Laws of England. And it's cited in Jacob A. New Law Dictionary. Because of the administrative proceedings under the Pope's canon law, there are more people in prison in America as a percentage of the population than there are in communist China, or the Soviet Union, or the worst dictatorship in history. And if there were Christians here, the Pope's private bar guild Satanists selling people into slavery would get their necks stretched. And this is Deuteronomy 24:7. Go ahead and read it. And the Innocence Project estimates that 60% of prisoners are innocent. But it's such good business for the Pope and their canon law so-called courts, which is one of the grievances in the organic law of the Declaration of Independence. He's plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people, all of which has been planned and orchestrated by the Pope. Within 20 years, this country is going to rule the world. Kings and emperors will soon pass away, and the democracy of the United States will take the place. When the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. And that's from Roman Catholic Archbishop James E. Quigley, Chicago Daily Tribune, May 5th, 1903. The Pope now owns and operates the bankrupt 1871 corporation at 16 Stat 419, as evidenced by the Roman Achaea military staff that's planted on all conquered nations, is sitting on the right side of the speaker's podium, and the two Roman fascia, which is a bundle of rods bound into a weapon symbolizing under the rule of a single man, that are on the wall on each side of the speaker's podium in the U.S. House of Representatives, which is also why Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, told the members, we can't read this bill until after we pass it, because she was taking instructions from her Vatican handlers, all of which evidences the fact that the 1871 corporation, 16 Stat 419, currently operating in the District of Columbia, is the Pope's dependent city-state. And the Vatican's Pope Francis recently issued an apostolic letter about jurisdiction of judicial authorities of Vatican city-state in criminal matters that talks about concurrent jurisdiction in other states, which means other papal states, like the District of Columbia and the City of London, United Kingdom Crown. And there's a picture of it. And there's that Pope, the Roman Achaea military staff that's planted on all conquered nations, and there's the two fascia that are on the wall, and there's the speaker's podium in the U.S. House of Representatives. And this is the apostolic letter. When the same matters are prosecuted in other states, the provisions in force in Vatican city-state on concurrent jurisdiction shall apply, which means the Pope's ecclesiastical canon law is brought into Texas with the Commerce Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. And the Vatican's Pope Francis came and addressed his owned and operated Congress on 24th of September 2015 and the Pope's satanic private bar guild members are assaulting people with their Roman fiction of law, minor estate, sestike use, usufruct, trust, necromancy with presumptions of jurisdiction, presumptions of the office of trustee, because of the sestike usufruct, minor estate, 31 CFR 363.6, and presumption of suretyship. As posterity, the appellant is entitled to common law, not canon/Roman law, by right of blood, as evidenced in Article 6, Clause 2 of this Constitution for the United States of America. This Constitution and laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties which shall be made under authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. And also is found in the Judiciary Act. That's the 1 Stat 77, saving in suitors in all cases the right to a common law remedy where a common law is competent to give it. And in the Judicial Code of 1911, third of all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, saving to suitors in all cases the right of a common law remedy where the common law is competent to give it. And that's at 36 Stat 1161, Section 256, Part 3. Because the law of the land phrase is convertible phrase with the phrase common law, and that's American Jurisprudence, 2D, Constitutional Law, Section 543. You can read that if you want. And common law and law of the land has always been here long before the government was here. And this is Hale versus Henkel. And because the Pope's maritime codes only apply on the high seas and up to the high water mark on the first bridge of any navigable river, and the District of Columbia or any federal enclave is found in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 and 18. The appellant has been very vociferous about being posterity, as found in the preamble, and the living man and the living soul in every document filed into the case, evidencing the prejudge on behalf of the Pope's private bar guild members on the bench, the Pope's clergy and their Vatican handlers, because it fails to matter what the appellant says or does or says. This case was prejudged from the beginning using trust law by the Pope's clergy. The appellant demanded the Pope's County of Montague to produce a bona fide contract or be guilty of felonies in the Catherine Phillips notice and demand. And we'll add in an ROA. And they failed to produce any evidence of a bona fide contract, and the Pope's clergy in the lower court failed to produce a contract. And it's impossible to prove jurisdiction exists absent a substantial nexus with the state, such as a voluntary subscription to license. All jurisdictional facts supporting claim that supposed jurisdiction exists must appear on the record of the court, and that's U.S. Supreme Court. This court is required to presume that no contract exists. If the record does not show on its face the facts necessary to give jurisdiction, that will be presumed not to have existed. The law requires proof of jurisdiction to appear on the record of the administrative agency and all administrative proceedings. The Pope's clergy in the lower court failed to be an Article 3 court because the appellees in this matter are all the Pope's U.S. citizens, and only an Article 3 court can affect matters involving life, liberty, or property. Therefore, they're acting with no authority and maliciously. The Pope's clergy have ceased to represent the government. The Pope's clergy are deemed to know the law and have no immunity. The Pope's clergy bill of pains and penalties are unconstitutional acts and a nullity. The Pope's clergy held a kangaroo court. Everything the Pope's clergy did is a fraud and a nullity. Any act to conceal a fraud becomes an act of fraud, and fraud is inexcusable and unpardonable, and any fraud amounts to injustice. And the Pope's bill of pains and penalties, fake judgment, is brutum fulmen. And the Pope's bill of pains and penalties, judgment is void and an absolute nullity. The Pope's clergy unfiled 78 criminal complaints that the appellant filed into the case in support of the Pope's Federal Bureau of Investigation refusal to investigate them in support of their targetedjustice.com agenda and weaponized Department of Justice to refuse to investigate felonies against targeted individuals like the appellant, in the hope the appellant will exercise his right to resist their unlawful arrest and their unlawful theft of the appellant's land with lethal force if necessary, and that's U.S. versus Schooner Amistad. So they have an excuse to murder the appellant, just like and say they killed another sovereign citizen terrorist for their communist handlers, in support of their war crimes agenda to take reprisals against anyone who thinks they have rights for their political beliefs, and their communist handlers to eliminate private property rights, all of which is in support of the Pope's private bar guild and their Vatican handlers, who love satanic blood sacrifices to the Roman cult god Baal, so they can pillage the fake money from the Treasury Direct account under GlennWinningham Byrne under the Hague Convention concerning the International Administration of Estates of Deceased Persons, concluded on 2nd of October 1973. And the appellant's not suicidal, but if the appellant does turn up dead, this is deathbed testimony. The Pope's clergy evidently intend to perjure their oaths of office to the supreme law of the land under the Pope's Code of Law for the District of Columbia, now known as United States Code 28 U.S.C. 453, and this is their oath that they're supposed to have, and they have absolutely no intention of being neutral or unbiased, but prejudged this case from the beginning to bring District of Columbia outside a maximum of 10 miles square in violation of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 for their Vatican handlers. And it failed to matter what the appellant said or did, because the Pope's clergy intended to sell the appellant into slavery from the beginning in support of their Vatican handlers and the Pope's County of Montague private bar guild buddies, because their oath to their private bar guild is also to their god Satan, who is the father of all lies. The Pope's clergies are engaged in treason in violation of the Pope's Code of Law for the District of Columbia, Title 18, U.S.C., Section 2381, and since we're attacked in 2020 with a stolen election and a fake pandemic and fake vaccinations, forced medical experiments by the communist Chinese, the Venezuelans, the Cubans, the Vatican, and Serbians, and others, they're giving aid and comfort to the communist enemies in a time of war, because the first plank of the Communist Manifesto is the abolition of private property rights, and the Pope's clergy are busy helping the Pope's County of Montague corporate land thieves in the theft of the appellant's land. The appellant has filed bar grievances against 98 of the Pope's private bar guild member clergy, some more than once, and they have all been dismissed as an inquiry. They were all appealed to the Pope's Board of Disciplinary Appeals, and they were dismissed again. The appellant has filed judicial complaints against more than 50 of the Pope's clergy judges and with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, some more than once, and they've all been dismissed, 25 of them on the same day. The 1871 municipal corporation that's now operating in the District of Columbia, conclusion. The 1871 municipal corporation that's now operating in the District of Columbia is unconstitutional because municipal law is Roman law, which is also called canon law, and is ecclesiastical from what is now the Vatican. Article 1 in amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. The minor estate that the Pope's municipal corporation, County of Montague, in conspiracy with the Pope's private bar guild and the Pope's State Bar of Texas are assaulting the appellant with is unconstitutional because Article 1 in amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. The Pope's State Bar of Texas, its parent corporation, National Bar Foundation, are unconstitutional because they're owned and operated by the Pope, and all bar members are foreign agents of the Pope as clergy busy assaulting the appellant with the Pope's canon law / Roman law and ecclesiastical law, and is unconstitutional because Article 1 in amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. The judgment of order of the Pope's lower court clergy is a bill of pains and penalties because it is a legislative act that punishes the appellant with the theft of his land without a judicial trial. And the judgment and order of the Pope's clergy buyers in the 97th District Court is also a bill of pains and penalties which are unconstitutional, violating Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. The appellant requires an order vacating the void judgment of the Pope's lower court clergy and ordering the Pope's Federal Bureau of Investigation to investigate the felonies of the County of Montague corporate thieves, and in order that the Pope's United States Attorney prosecute the felonies. And the appellant requires an order declaring the 1871 Municipal Corporation 16 Stat 419 is unconstitutional, and the minor estate 31 CFR 363.6 is unconstitutional, and the National Bar Foundation and the State Bar of Texas are unconstitutional. The appellant requires an order dissolving and liquidating the Pope's minor estate. And the appellant fails to care what they do with the fake money in the Treasury Direct account. They can put it up the rectal orifice. But the appellant wants it dissolved and liquidated yesterday. It's a fraud, a lie, and necromancy and satanic. Signed and sealed in red ink on the land. And this is a certificate saying that for the words. I'm not sure if I'm going to put that in there, but we'll see.
Second that.
Sorry?
I second that. All that you just read, I second all that.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes.
Did you see the news about the National Guard being used as immigration judges?
No, I didn't.
Remember which state? That sounds kind of weird. National Guard, immigration judging.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing that, actually, now that you mention it.
New York or Texas or Florida?
Well, that's a recipe for denials of due process, that's for sure.
So you said 60% of inmates are there under false charge. I've heard up to 80% of inmates are there for false charge.
Sorry?
You mentioned in your case or your brief that 60% of inmates are in there under false charge, where I've heard it's up to 80% of inmates are in there on false charge.
It wouldn't surprise me. I'm just using that Innocence Project as an authority. That's all. I've heard that's entirely possible. It's they couldn't care less about justice. It's all about the commercial transaction. They're nothing. Don't get me going. You're going to get me going now. They're nothing but a bunch of thieves and pirates.
Wait till I tell you my bad lawyer joke. Or liar joke, I mean. Liar joke.
Your liar joke, eh? Okay, well, go ahead. Let's hear the joke.
Well, I don't want to get you mad. I know you're celebrating the holiday and everything, but no. No,
Well,
why did
do it
the... okay, no, but it's so true. Why did the liars sit on their watch?
Why did the liar do what?
Sit on their watch.
Sit on their watch?
Yeah, they weren't taking a fart on it or anything, but why did they sit on it?
I'll bet it's got something to do with time.
Yeah, they wanted to be late for court.
There you go. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's no doubt. I've had people.
Bad.
There's a guy that I know that I'm helping. I filed this amicus curiae with in Chicago. He went and there was a lawyer. He had hired this lawyer to file a brief to get him out on bond, and the lawyer took his money, and then the day before the hearing, the lawyer told him that he had to come up with another 50 grand or he wasn't going to come into court. I mean, talk about extortion or what?
You mean the liar? You need to clarify.
Yeah, the liar. Yeah, no joke. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. I mean, Glenn, thank you ever so much for that. Where do you get the energy to do that?
Well, I don't know. I was 14 years old, and I was given a patriarchal blessing, and in there it said that unto whom much is given. It said I was not by chance that I'm here. I have something to do, and I would be given those skills and talents when the need arises. And it's amazing how this stuff just lands in my lap when the need arises. And then what happened is I'm just uploading this file to the group here. So I get these. Everything just lands in my lap just at the right time. It seems like, and I was also told unto whom much is given, much is expected. And I feel like I have to do something about it. I have to do my best. So I'm not held accountable for the blood and sins of this generation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you sleep good at night. That's good.
So, surely other people have got questions, comments, suggestions on that.
Sorry?
I'm saying surely other people here have got comments, questions, suggestions.
Yeah, I have one.
I don't know. I think most people here are wanting to learn about it. They have an open mind about it, and so I'm just trying to put stuff here that will educate people about the law and how the law works. I mean, there's a lot of unproven theories. I call them unproven theories out there, and there's a guy that I'm helping right now. I'm going to file an amicus for him that. He was doing equity. He was trying to use equity, and it didn't work at all. You have these people running around saying you have to use equity if you want to get a remedy, and he tried to use it, and it was a complete waste of time, and they convicted him, it was, I don't know exactly what happened, but they held a show trial. I think he did a plea bargain and then withdrew his plea bargain, but the bottom line is that it's the same issues with the amicus curiae, where there's no regulations for these statutes, which means they're unenforceable, and nobody brought that up.
Sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that equity doesn't work. It might have just been done wrongly.
He had lawyers, and the lawyers, he spent $1 million on this lawyer, and the lawyer didn't come up with that shit. And so I'm going to file this amicus curiae, and he's gonna. I asked him for a donation, and so I don't know what I don't know. I have no idea what kind of financial situation he's in and everything, but so he's going to come up with a donation for me. And I'm going to do, after I do my appeal brief, I told him that I'm in the middle of doing this appeal brief. And once I'm done with it, this has got the priority because I got to get it out by Friday. After that, I'll work on his amicus curiae. But it's probably the best thing. It's in appeal. His case is in appeal right now. And so he's got to, so this appeal, this amicus is going to be exculpatory evidence. I got to look in the rules and see if I have to do a motion to file an amicus. Some courts of appeal you do. I know in the Fifth Circuit you do. I saw it in the rules there. But
sure. I think when you said there that he was represented by lawyers, that was one big mistake.
There's no doubt about it. I gave him an affidavit of life and a mandatory judicial notice of 12 presumptions to file into the case. And so he's going to do that. And I think that's That's exactly what's going on, because it's the minor estate. They're dealing with a thing, and he's got to defeat that presumption. And I agree. But you know, we'll see what happens. That's all I can say. There's no justice in these courts. The fact that 60% or more of the people that are in prison are innocent is a perfect example. It's just completely
It's appalling. It's disgusting. Yeah, absolutely. So
It's the Vatican.
is he still, just a second, is he still represented though?
You know, I think that he went and tried to fire his lawyer, and the judge went and gave him a standby counsel. And
well, that's wrong. No. That's wrong. The judge should not be doing that.
Well, you know, they again, he's an imbecile, right? That's anybody that's got a lawyer is an imbecile, and the judge is basically telling him you're an imbecile, and that's what I would say.
Fire the lawyer. It's got nothing to do with the judge. Listen, he's instructing the lawyer, yeah, not the judge. So just sack the lawyers always.
I agree. I'd be telling the judge. So you're saying I'm an imbecile? And so we need to have a judge in here that's neutral and unbiased. You're not neutral and unbiased. You've already prejudged this matter.
We have a question. Burra stepped up to the mic while Robert was speaking, so can she go next, please? Or he go next? Burra?
I just wanted to mention this.
I can't hear you. You got
I was going to mention, isn't this where we get to come in and as the people, if we're not happy with our government, this is where we change it. This lawfare, you're right. This lawfare is sucking bad, man. Bad.
You got that right. Yeah, don't get me going. You're going to get me going. Well, I think Trump is trying to get it all fixed, but it's not going to be something that happens overnight. It's going to take time, and that's all I can say. I really think that Trump is trying to get it, but it's just going to take time. I think that they need to start arresting people that are involved in the foreign interference in our elections, and I think that will get rid of a bunch of them, and maybe the rest of them will start coming into line. I guess we'll see. That's all I can say.
Yes, indeed. And thank you for your work on this, Glenn. That's really good. That's really good work. Appreciate it so much.
Not a problem.
Trying to do what they can. Appreciate it.
There were some folks on here this morning who were talking about the new bill that was introduced here. Did you get a chance to read about it, or?
Run that by me once more.
There was a new bill that was introduced apparently today.
For what?
I'm not certain. I haven't heard of anything. I was wondering if you had.
I heard that that big beautiful bill that Trump wanted, it got approved by Congress, and it's going to. There's a bunch of things that are going to happen. But beyond that, I heard that Social Security benefits are not going to be taxable. Almost all Social Security benefits. There's a bunch of things that are going to change. But beyond that, I haven't heard much. I got to step aside. I'll be right back in a couple minutes.
Okay, I think it was Buran that was trying to ask a question. So if you want to ask now, go for it.
No, I really doesn't have a question to ask, but what the gentleman is doing a good job. My question is, what do we have to do with Trump? I'm not against him. I'm not for him, but it's still dealing with the United States.
Yeah, the de facto. I hear what you're saying. Well, that's the game. That's what we're parameters that are in place at the moment, right? We know that those things change on the regular every 4 years for a purpose, for a reason. And well, we've seen a lot of new bills be implemented, and the fact that gold and silver is going to be made into banking is a huge step forward, I think. And it's almost scary to think that banks will now be accepting gold and silver, because that's something that they've resisted for years, and I'm hoping they're going to do it on this end of the border.
I totally agree with that, but what do our allegiance has to do with the United States? Because no, that's a corporation. Because the United States has 3 definitions.
Agreed also. And it's registered in Canada.
What is our status? And status is everything.
Okay, I'm back.
Have this fireworks subsided?
Yeah, it has. It stopped. Everybody was outside watching it, and they're back in the house now. So, is there anything else we want to talk about?
Yeah, Glenn. This is Baron. How you doing? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm okay. What's up?
Well, I've been following you. I got a lot of your information. I'm looked through a lot of things, and the question I want to ask you: what is your status?
Well, my status is none of your damn business, is it?
I'm just saying.
We were talking about that while you were off the mic.
Yeah, I'm not being crucial about it and everything, because a lot of things are working for me. What I'm doing.
Well, you know,
No,
status is Roman law. Okay, status is Roman law, and a common law status means nothing. And I just read in this document that I went through, and if you weren't paying any attention, there's nothing I can do for you. If you weren't paying any attention, you would know what my status is. But so I'm just not into babysitting people. I'm not into saying it twice. I said it once today, and that's all I'm going to say it.
Okay, I can accept that, but other than that, I wasn't on it and everything. I'm not trying to be harsh or whatsoever. I'm just coming in peace. That's all.
Okay, well, whatever. I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I just don't like repeating myself, and I realize everybody's on a learning curve, and so I say it once, and if you don't get it, then that's why we got a YouTube video. You can listen to it again, and try and get your head around it. But I'm not going to babysit people.
Well, I'm not in a learning curve. I've been in it since I was 24. I'm 61 now. I'm very well adopted to it and everything. I like your information. I feed up on it and everything. I utilize it, and it helped me out a lot to do a lot of things. And I'm in the process of doing a lot of things with the knowledge that I have. Not to disband you or say anything negative towards you.
Perfect, because we like to consider, I know myself, I consider status.
I appreciate that.
Status is to me, status is everything. Whatever working for you and everything, I can't disagree or whatsoever. That's you. But me, it has helped me out so much in my lifetime. Where other than that, I'm at the brink of I help a lot of other people also in cases and everything. I don't even go to court. Police don't even stop me. When they do stop me and identify me, they let me go every time.
Good.
I'm in probate court right now, finna get everything.
Well, I'm,
Okay, perfect. Maybe
again, my attitude is that minor estate's a fraud, and I don't care what they do with the fake money in it. If I go and tell them I want the fake money in it, then I don't have clean hands. Right now, I can say I have clean hands. I didn't create that minor estate, and it's a fraud, and I want the damn thing dissolved and liquidated, and they can put it up the rectal orifice. And so I'm not trying to claim anything in it. I don't want anything in it. They can put it up the rectal orifice, and my status is that I'm the king. Okay, if you want to know, I'm the king, and they're my servant, and they damn well better do what I tell them, or I'm going to break it off in their ass.
I understand that. I am that I am. I exist.
There you go.
That's what I am.
So
I'm very
the king
with
doesn't
that.
try and take advantage of government benefits.
No, I don't take anything. I don't take no government benefits or whatsoever. But what you did is use my property, and I'm going to give you back your titles. And I'm going to liquidate them and use them as credit.
Well,
that's what I'm doing.
It's all about the words you use, and you just said you wanted to have dirty hands.
Nope, my hand ain't going to be dirty.
Well, whatever. That's. I guess we'll have to agree to disagree.
Yeah. Whatever works for you, it works for you. I'm not against that.
Okay.
Just for reference, credit is also debt.
Sorry.
So,
I said for reference, credit is also debt. So whether you want the debt note or you want credit, it's what I think Glenn was trying to say. You're still going to be operating with unclean hands.
Well, there's. You ever heard of J.P. Morgan? What he said, and I think that what he said.
That's what he was trying to say. That's why he didn't want anything. Even the credit's considered as debt.
I agree 100%, but what he said is gold and silver are money and everything else is credit.
Right. I saw that. I know that also. But other than that, I'm in the system where, other than that, I got to provide for my family and do for my descendants and whatsoever. I'm going to do what I can for them until they dissolve what they need to dissolve.
Well, knock yourself out. Don't be peddling your stuff to me. Okay, I got my own ideas about that stuff, and so we'll agree to disagree, and that's the end of this discussion. And I'll mute you if you keep on.
No problem.
thank you for your patience, gentlemen. I so appreciate it because we don't want that to escalate any further. So, Glenn, if you send this in by the 14th, when do you expect you'll get a reply back?
It'll be months. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do after I do this amicus curiae for this friend of mine that I'm going to be working on, I'll probably do an emergency petition to the U.S. Supreme Court under Rule 11 because this is like national importance. And there's thousands of these municipal corporations all over the country, and it's all the Vatican, and they're unconstitutional. And so, anytime this kind of stuff comes up, what the courts do is they'll say, well, this is unconstitutional, but we can't expect you to just dissolve all this stuff tomorrow. And they'll give them a time period that they can, get the stuff sorted out. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. I'm not opposed to that. I don't want to cause, anarchy. I don't want to cause real huge problems. I just want us to get back to lawful constitutional government. And I realize that kind of stuff is not going to happen overnight. But I do also have there's remote viewers that have talked about how they saw Congress adjourning for the last time. And I think that, they think that the Brunson case was going to cause it, and it might. I don't know, but maybe my case will cause it. I don't know. But I'm going to bring up the issue.
Yeah, and Andrew Tate's case is being heard again, too. So if they're not sitting, how are these bills being passed? Are they doing it at the cottage, watching fireworks?
I don't know. I think the Congress hasn't been adjourned yet. Okay, Congress is still. Matter of fact, Trump told them they couldn't go on their vacation until they passed the the big beautiful bill, and so it's amazing how quick they got it passed. Did you notice that? They got it passed. Trump called them, you can't go on vacation until you pass that bill. And so then they got it passed. So I think it's kind of funny.
4th of July dessert for them. Oh my goodness, that's sad. That's so sad.
Well, you got to understand, you go back to history. Lincoln ordered Congress to reconvene, right? Congress is operating under executive authority. At the end of the day, when push comes to shove, it's all the president. He's the one that's telling them what to do. And you remember back when Obama was in the White House, what happened is they started coming out, they were passing that Obamacare. And there was all sorts of courts coming out and saying it was unconstitutional and all sorts of stuff. And Obama came out and started railing on the courts. And then that Obamacare bill got to the Supreme Court, and Roberts actually voted in favor of it, and he said it's just another tax. And so the courts fell in line, okay? Because again, at the end of the day, it's the executive branch. There's no separation of powers. The president is running everything.
That's right, and that's a good sign, isn't it? The fact that they've actually ruled gold and silver to be lawful money now.
You know, I think that this whole thing is a giant military psyop, and they put Trump into power. They invited him to run, and they're setting up Obama. They set him up. He's a what do they call that? A candidate.
Pigeon, ball guy? Yeah, Manchurian candidate.
Yeah, Manchurian candidate. And so they set up, that's the CIA. He was put in there by the CIA. And they set them guys up, and they took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. And when Trump in his first term, he would throw out stuff, and they'd take it hook, line, and sinker. So I mean, Trump meets with generals in the middle of the night all the time, and so I think that they're just taking it hook, line, and sinker, and he sets them up, and they just take it hook, line, and sinker. We're all pawns in the big game of chess. It's warfare. Right now, I can tell you what I think is going to happen. What I'm hearing is that a few months ago, they had a meeting, and Tulsi Gabbard, who is in charge of not Homeland Security, she's the director of National Intelligence, I guess is what it's called. Anyways, she said, "You were right, Mr. President. We now have proof that the 2020 election was stolen." And just like you said, and then shortly after, Trump came out and started talking about. Remember, they're talking about the auto pen, right? See, I can tell you what's going to happen, and they're talking about that Trump has been talking about a prosecutor, a special prosecutor. So what they're going to do is they're going to get a special prosecutor. And he's going to start investigating the stolen election, and he's going to come up with evidence that the stolen election was stolen by foreign enemies, and that'll bring in the military tribunals, and they will, and then so by fall, they will start arresting people, very high-profile arrests, maybe Comey, maybe Schiff, I don't know. I suspect those, but I don't know. There'll just be some really high-profile ones that it'll be on the news. It'll be all over the world. And they'll be arresting people, and they'll be taking them to Guantanamo Bay because they're giving aid and comfort to the enemy. That's treason under the Constitution. And they'll be, once that stuff happens, in World War II, there was some Nazis that came to America. They got training in Germany. I read this article about how they had gotten training about how to do sabotage and blow up bridges and all sorts of stuff. And they came to America, and they, by a Nazi, Russian, or a German submarine, got let off on Long Island. They came on Long Island, and they all disappeared into the population. One of them turned himself in, and so then they went and found the rest of them, and they put them on trial, and it took a week. It only lasted a week, and all of them got hung within a week, except for the one that turned himself in. He got life in prison. And so it's once these war crimes trials start happening, some of that stuff might take a while, but some of it's going to go really fast. And due process under international law is completely a different thing than it is under the Constitution. It'll be under international law because it's war crimes. Okay, that's completely different. And so we'll start seeing that's going to start happening in the fall, I think, and they'll start arresting people. And what they're going to do, in my opinion, what's going to happen is they're going to undo everything Biden did. It's going to come out that Biden was never president, and that it was the auto pen the whole time, and or something like that. Okay, that Biden was never there. Matter of fact, Trump even said recently that Biden got executed in 2020. Anyways, and so...
Well, he was geriatric, let's face it, wasn't he? I mean, that's all really great news, good to look forward to. What about the sealed indictments? Any more sealed indictments?
So, anyways, before I was, I don't know. I know there's a bunch of indictments. I guess but they're going to investigate them. But again, it's going to come down to there's election officials in the counties that were helping steal those elections. Well, they're not just helping steal elections. Okay, they're giving aid and comfort to the enemy. Okay, there's a lot of those election officials in the counties that are going to be before war crimes tribunals, and that's giving aid and comfort to the enemy. There's a lot of this stuff that's giving aid and comfort to the enemy. I think that the people involved in this Montague County, in my case, I think that's definitely could be giving aid and comfort to the enemy, and so I think that there's so what they're going to do is they're going to undo Biden, they're going to undo Obama, and they're going to undo George Bush Jr. and they're going to everything they did will be undone. And it'll all get rolled back. I don't think they'll go back before then, but that'll go back to 9/11. And remember, Trump, when he first got into office, he said that before he's out of office, this is on this term, he said that before he's out of office, we're going to know who brought those buildings down. And so it'll all come out. And there's shit is just starting to hit the fan. He said the calm before the storm. The storm hasn't got here yet. Okay, it's coming, and it's going to be really, really ugly. I hope you have food storage.
It's not that. Yep.
I hope
Nuremberg 2.2, right? When they said we were just following orders, that didn't wash.
That don't wash is right. The Nazis did that in World War II, and they suffered death by hanging. And the ones that didn't suffer death by hanging got life in prison.
That sounds fine to me. That's too
I don't
good.
know if you had so many ice epidemics too. The ice epidemic in America and Australia. That word has, and then iceberg. But immigration and control. What does it stand for? Well. They wear a patch. There's a stormtrooper. They wear a patch that kind of talks about a storm, like they storm in, and so it's kind of like an ice storm, I guess.
They're marshals.
I don't know. I just know that it's going to get really, really ugly. I think that I don't know how it's all going to play out.
It'll be on mainstream. Because if they unfold all that on mainstream, there's going to be a lot of folks not grasping that Biden wasn't real, right?
I think the Biden was just a show. Matter of fact, there was some times when he was 6 inches taller than the other times. There's even one video where he's scratching the back of his neck, and the camera's looking at him scratch the back of his neck, and he's got a mask on. So who the fuck knows was inside there? And so, anyways, Trump said recently that he got executed in 2020. So I don't think Biden was ever in office. Anyways,
No,
they're gonna.
Obama
I
was
think they're
even,
gonna. That's gonna undo everything they did. Okay, all of the stuff they signed, it's gonna be gone, and so, you know, I guess we'll see how it all plays out. But this is going to be the greatest show on earth. This is like history in the making on a huge scale, and we're going to be here to watch it as long as we survive. We don't get taken out by another pandemic or something, and we're going to get here to watch it. I think they're probably going to. It's going to probably at some point it might be where everybody's on the militia. You know, that's the way it was in colonial days. Everybody was on the militia. All able-bodied men over the age of 16 years old up to 45 were on the militia, and I think that I think we'll all be on it. You know, even there's times when the government has to recall there'll be people that are 16, 70, and 80 years old that are in the military because they need bodies. You know what I mean? And
first muster, Massachusetts, 1644 was the first muster, 1644.
Yeah, no doubt.
They were calling all war veterans to go and volunteer in, of all places, Ukraine. And it didn't matter of what age. If you were even in retirement, they wanted you to volunteer for that.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been a real bloodbath, that house.
Yeah, circus. More like circus. So you've calmed down from all the festivities there. There's no more July 10th cake or anything that you gotta eat. Well, I know we've kept you here a couple of hours already, and your brother's there, so I want you to enjoy your holiday. And thank you very much for sharing the appeal, and good luck with getting it all shipped off to all the wrongdoers, I'll say. Is that a good word? Wrongdoers and liars and the attorneys by next Friday, and I'm certain that you'll do it because you have the means and your engineer win. So good luck with that, and enjoy the rest of the festivities and your brother, and just come back next week, okay?
Absolutely. And we'll see you same time, same place next week. And you all have a good one.
I'll try to have another bad liar joke for you, I promise. I've been researching.
All right. Well,
all right, thanks.
Thanks everybody, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place, same channel.
Thank you for sharing so much.
Yeah, you mean a lot to this channel. I know. On behalf of the Queen and everybody else, we appreciate your time you give us here.
The Pope's Queen?
Knowledge.
Oh, the Queen, our Queen. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. She's I appreciate that, and I appreciate her and putting up with me. I appreciate you all putting up with me, and I kind of get going on a rail sometimes, and so it's a networking thing. We need to share our stuff, and I don't know everything. I'm still learning too. So I think that this I'm not sure that they're going to like this appeal brief, but that's what I'm planning on sending in there. And there'll be a few changes, but not much. Anyways, y'all have a good one. Yeah. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place, same channel.
Great.
Thank you, Glenn.
See ya.
Night.